Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So I'd like to do a build update for my rogue, where I can go and cap pretty much all of the stats. Now this of course will be in combat with everything procced off with all of our buff food and all that. And we can see we can pretty much get everything capped. Now you may notice critical strike. Hey, what's up with that? Well, first up I would intend to be in a party with a paladin who will have that critical strike aura active. That'll give me another 2%, so we're on 85.5. I don't even need that. As it is right now, I am theoretically capped. Mainly because on a rogue we have this feature where we can increase our hits to have a critical hit rate between 1 to 10%. And you could test that on a dummy with your act log and you get on average about a 7% increase. So on 83% crit chance, we're already capped. So you can see all we are short is that eensy weensy bit of combat advantage, but we can consider that pretty much capped anyway. Now this build is for the new trial. We can see we are running a red eye stare, which gives us that 10% damage versus undead. And we're also using a claw of Bahamut in our boots there. So instead of running a little bit more ratings, let's say for crit strike, we're using another 5% damage bonus against that dragons. And on top of that, we're using other buffs like our watermelon sorbet, albeit this is the older watermelon. So not many of you could actually pull this build off because the new watermelon only gives 5% accuracy and it only gives 5% power. Now, if I'm running in general content, I don't bother with the old watermelon sorbet. I switch my red eyes stare out to the red eyes glare, which gives me that 5% power and also that accuracy, although I do have to rejig a little bit with the crit severity and the loss in accuracy there, but overall it's still very well doable. Now the reason I can run with this build, and when we look in our companion tab we can see this is the setup here. You have your Wolfgar and Dridst, and that gives you that extra boost of 3.75% stats there, and that gives a combination of your accuracy and combat advantage, your crit chance and your crit severity. We're running a red slad, and you may notice we're only running one buff to damage companion. That may be a questionable choice, and yes, I believe we lose about 1 to 2% damage, but again, this video is more on how to get those cap stats on a rogue, and I'm going to be running this build in the new trial. And yes, if it doesn't work out for me, then I'm running a bit more accuracy. We can rejig to get some more crit severity by losing this red slad and switch to like mince giving 8.6%, but running with 3 of the damage buff companions from my math adds up to actually less damage bonus than stacking other things like combat advantage or power. And the reason behind this is because when we're facing against this dragon and undead in the new trial, we have like ancient dragon potions up which give a 10% damage boost. We have like our diamond's blessings for another 5% damage boost. We have our undead ring for another 10% damage boost. Our claw Bahamut for another 5% damage boost. In our boons here we have the undead boon for another 5% damage boost. You get my point. We have so many of these damage boosts, and the thing is, many of them just stack on top of each other rather than multiplying separately, and thus the more you have of them, it adds up to like stats in the end, making it so that you might just be better off having more stats because our damage bonuses are higher than our stats, and this then correlates to combat advantage and power more effectively, but we can also apply that to accuracy and crit severity, but at a lesser effect. So overall, that's going to be my builds update. I've just changed a few things. If you watched my previous video, I'll have a link to that in the video description. You can see we're running 3 of these jade enchantments plus a citrine. The rest just remains the same. Companion's been rejigged a little bit with perfect vision there to give us more accuracy, and the companion gear there as well. And of course, we're running with an augment companion. Especially for this new trial, you'll notice that your active companion will die a lot, and thus it cannot output as much damage as you may hope it should in the later phases of the trial. Can still deal some competitive damage. However, with it dying so much, with all of the false targets, like when you want to be attacking Valindra instead of the dragon and the dragon instead of Valindra, you can easily have your companion attacking the wrong target, or when you want to be targeting those Thayan supports instead of the dragon, killing them as quickly as possible, it can be better to just have all your damage focused on yourself, improving your own stats so that you can output as much damage as you need rather than relying on some bot who will deal a little bit more of your damage. And as I've mentioned in my video of whether you should run an augment or a striker companion, you want to be like over 500,000 DPS on a dummy, and then you run an augment. If you're less than that, if you're struggling to keep up with the damage, like even just because your class full stop just doesn't have the ability to output that much with the new gear and all that, then you may just very well be better off with an active companion to support you in terms of dealing a bit more damage, and they will help out in artifact calls. And even in this build, we are indeed running ferocity, especially in the new trial. There's always a tank who's taking like a bleed over time, so they get hit so much that this can proc off fairly easily. Otherwise, I don't think there's that many other changes to the build. Still running same colors. I believe we're still running the same insignias, but we do have 2 combatants maneuver for giving us that combat advantage rating whenever we're attacking our target. And we're using an Artificer's Persuasion for the reduction in our cooldowns when we use our artifact. 2 Assassin's Covenant. Companions again look like so. Boons are set up as so, along with the guild boon, of course using our Revive Sickness when we're actually in the trial. Power setup looks like so, just all of the bottom feats there. And we are using Path of Blades instead of Lashing Blade for extra damage, mainly because Path of Blades will proc this new set, which will proc the Touch of Wind, and every hit of Path of Blades will also proc the Touch of Wind. At least it has that ability to have a chance to do so. So it's very effective there, especially since Lashing Blade, you gain no benefit from casting it in stealth, and you would cast Wicked Reminder from your stealth. And that's pretty much it for my build update. Still not entirely sure whether I should be running the Mirage or the Lionheart, doing a bit more testing on that, and we'll find out at some point. Otherwise, the Mirage are still pretty good, just spawning all of those clones. However, if they die too quickly, then yeah, you gain no damage from them and they're just dead. You don't even gain a damage bonus from the Mirage because, yeah, it's only your illusions that gain that 3% damage bonus, as you can read in the tooltip there. And they'll only be up for 10 seconds every 30 seconds, and if that doesn't align with the artifact call, you lose out on a pretty big chunk of damage. So hopefully this was somewhat insightful and helpful to you guys. Oh yes, and by the way, I'm a wood elf for the extra critical strike. So again, I'd like to give a massive thank you to all of my channel members for helping me keep my channel going, and if I presented this well, consider leaving the video a like, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. We'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.